Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? VayHoz here, and today I'll be showing you guys how to use Sytrus. That is right. I'll be showing you guys pretty much the basics, Unison, FM, and a bunch of other stuff like that. So I'll be labeling that in the description with timestamps, and also on the video I'll have kind of labels and titles and stuff like that for the sections. So yeah, this is going to be a relatively long video, so if you already know some of this stuff, that's okay. You might learn a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna start off by loading up a default preset by going to this arrow, presets, and then default up here. I don't know why I screwed up so bad there, but yeah, by default you will actually have a sine wave, just a sine wave playing. This is what it sounds like, and you have a total of 6 operators in Sytrus, which is amazing. That's actually a lot of operators, and you can choose from a bunch of waveforms, and we'll go through those real quick. So first of all, you have the sine wave, obviously, which is very soft, I would say. Next thing up, you have the triangle wave. It's a little bit sharper than the sine wave, but it still has similar characteristics. You have the saw wave right here, which is very sharp compared to all the others that we just heard. And we also have the square wave, which is it's a lot sharper, a lot cleaner. Sounds like freaking Mario lead or whatever, but and then that last waveform, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I don't really use it that much. And then you obviously have everything in between, since this is a slider. So that's very useful. What's fun with this slider also is that it actually locks in place when you hit a major waveform. So like you'll be able to tell when you hit one of the major waveforms because it sort of locks. As you can see right there, like this is the exact triangle waveform. Then if you go up, you know, it kind of locks there. So that's really useful. So yeah, those are the basic waveforms. Very useful. I can just go ahead and give you guys a kind of insight on what these waveforms are used for. The sine is often used as sub-bass really low. I'll just go ahead and load up a parametric EQ right here to kind of show you guys the spectrum. Show you guys. So you know, usually you'll have the sine playing really low separately from your basses. So you'll cut the high end from your main basses just like this with a high pass, and then you'll put a sine to replace it, just to have that, you know, bass still be present. So that's one of the main uses for the sine wave. Triangle wave, it's kind of similar. I use it mainly for FM as my second oscillator to make it sound sharper. So I don't use it all that much though. So saw waves always used for leads and stuff like that. Supersaws, lead sounds, even respaces, you know, crazy sounds that you hear from Noisia, Seamless, and stuff like that. A lot of it is with saws, and we'll actually get to that when we hit the unison part. So yeah, next thing up we have square waves, which actually is used a lot for respaces as well. Noisia and other people like to use that really low with unison, obviously, and also for leads. You know, just stuff like that. Square waves can be really nice for that. So yeah, that's a little insight on what use these oscillators could have. I'd just like to cover something real quick for the oscillator part. So right here, the ratio is set to 2 right now. And one thing you need to know when dealing with these operators is that it always goes by times 2. So right here, 1 would be 1 octave lower. 2 would be 1 octave higher than that. 4 would be 1 octave higher than that. And so on. So if you want to like multiply by 2 every time, you'll just get a higher octave. And that's kind of the point of the ratio. And then this right here is pretty much the semitones. So yeah, we'll skip to the next part. Alright, now for these tabs right here, you guys might be wondering what, you know, use all of these have, and I'm just going to go through a few of them. A lot of them you'll actually never really have to use, because unless you really want to be picky and you really know what you're doing, but other than that, I'm really going to be covering the basic stuff that you'll need to know. So, this is basically panning. You have multiple things that can automate or modulate the panning. So you have envelopes, you know, LFOs, stuff like that. Mod X and Mod Y, these are really useful. They're basically macros, I'd say. So you have this little line right here. Right side is 100%, then this side is 0% of the Mod X. And where's the Mod X? Mod X is right here in the main. So if you actually listen to this, you heard that go from your left ear to your right ear, and that is because that actually modulated the panning. So as we said earlier, the left side is, you know, the 0%, and then the right side is 100%. One thing that's really like annoying and useless, I think, is the smooth option right here. It actually doesn't make your automation as exact as you would like it to be. It kind of slows it down and makes it smoother. So I like to turn that off so that we get full control over, you know, what we can do with this automation without having it slowed down or smoothened. So yeah. So that was basically how to use the Mod X stuff. You can literally do this for anything. For the volume, we'll just give that a shot real quick. So you go here, volume tab, and then go into Mod X, and then just trace a line going from 0 to 100, like that. The Y part here is actually the volume, so you know this would be 0%, and then this would be 100%, and then this is the X pad knob value. So this would be 0%, this would be 100% of the X pad right here. So sorry, I actually have the pan right here set to completely to the right. So if we just hold on, I'll have to do something real quick. 0.50. I'll just paste this right here to make sure that it stays in the middle. So 50% all the way. There you go. So now, our panning is completely in the middle now, so that would make sense. So yeah, if we just go here, you know, volume, Mod X, have this little curve, it's gonna, you'll see what it does. So it's pretty self-explanatory actually, and you know, this is the basic concept of using these pads right here, these knobs. So you can do the same thing with the Mod Y if you'd like. I'll just leave it to 100% for the Mod X so it doesn't mess with anything at all. So yeah, Mod Y, we'll just you know, turn this down all the way, have a linear kind of line going like that, and we'll modulate the Y knob right here. So you kind of get the hang of it. This is basically how to use the X and Y pad. There are a lot of other ways to actually automate you know, these multiple features right here. So you can have an envelope. This is in everything, literally, in Massive, Serum, freaking you name it. Probably Silent. I've never used Silent in my life, but yeah. So you can have this attack right here. These knobs are really messed up in FL Studio 12. I don't know what's going on, so I have to, you know, mess with it directly here. So the attack is obviously, I'll just play through it. You'll hear it, literally. It's just, you know, how long it takes for it to hit this maximum value right here. So you can have that set to 0. The way I actually set this to a line is by right-clicking this little middle button. And if you don't want an attack, you can just, you know, leave it at the beginning completely. So now you just have this decay right here, which is currently just a curve. And if you want it to be aligned, you can just right-click that part. And if you don't want a decay at all, you can just, you know, remove the decay. It really does not matter. And this will, this is the sustain right here. So you can hold the note, and if it's at 100%, it will stay at 100% for as long as you hold your note. And then what you hear after that is the release right here. So if you remove the release, it's going to stop exactly when you stop holding your note. And if you have a release, it's going to kind of, you know, you'll hear it. You'll hear the release kind of stay there. If you have no release, this can be responsible for some clicking. Sometimes you'll hear it if you have reverb or stuff like that. So you really want to have at least a small release there. Even the attack sometimes can be responsible for some clicking. So if you have a small attack, that can really fix it in of itself. And just to add on to the sustain part right here, if you have it lower, this is going to, if you hold your note, it's going to, you know, start up here, and then it's going to end up right here. And I'll actually make it go down to 0. So our sustain is going to be 0. So now it's going to be an entire curve just going down. And then it's going to sustain at 0. So yeah, that's pretty much. You can probably figure this out by messing a little bit around. And I'll actually turn the volume down because I just noticed it's clipping a lot right here if I do multiple notes. So I'll just reduce the volume. Okay. Man, this sounds like really bad, like freaking ice cream truck music. But anyway, ways of modulating volume, panning, pitch, phase, stuff like that. But it's all through these mod X, mod Y, envelope, LFO functions. Yeah, that's the use of those. I'll just go over this oscillator tab real quick. This is actually a way of making your own waveforms just by adding some harmonics in here. So yeah, this is a very useful and unique way of making your own waveform. FM8 does not have this. This is one of the, you know, fun parts of Sytrus actually. So this is really useful for FM. We'll actually get into that later when we cover FM. And actually down here, it's actually the phase of the oscillators. So yeah, you kind of see what's going on right here. It just changes the phase at which the oscillator is going to play, and you can do this for every harmonic that you add. And the list goes on and on over here. You can really go for as long as you'd like. Alright, we will now cover the unison part of this video for Sytrus. So we're going to go ahead and load up a default preset once again, and I'll go over here into the operator section, and we'll just select a saw wave just like that. So 50% would be the saw wave. And this is what it sounds like right now. It sounds very nice actually. I really like the saw wave because it's sharp, and a lot of the time unison will be done either on saw waves or square waves. That's because they sound sharp and nice together, I guess, when unison. You can do unison on anything, and I'll just explain what it is, basically. So this right here is the entire part for unison in Sytrus. If you go ahead here in the main tab right here. And what is it? What is unison? That is when you put multiple copies of the same waveform and you play them at the same time. And basically you play them together. So like that. If you just listen to that, that is very weird. And that is due to the fact that they are all being played at the same time, even though they are detuned. So if you want to kind of fix that effect and get a more supersaw type of feel, you can go over here onto the unison phase slider and just slide out all the way up. This just makes sure that it is completely random. They don't all play at the same time. This sounds a lot better in my opinion. So yeah, that just makes it more random, the phase at which the copies of the sound play at. This slider right here, unison panning, this is for the stereo effect. So if you like the stereo effect that this has, you can have it up all the way. If not, this is going to be mono. So yeah, I really enjoy this panning effect right here. This second knob right here, the volume, unison volume I believe it is, this is the blend. So you'll have your main oscillator kind of, you know, doing this, and then you'll have all the copies of it on the side, which are going to be at a lower volume if this is set lower. But if it's set at 100%, all of your voices are going to be playing at the same volume. And obviously, if this knob is set at 0%, you'll only hear your main oscillator volume. Yeah, pretty much. So let's turn that up all the way. I like the unison effect here. And now for the unison pitch. This is the third slider right here. This is the amount at which all the copies of the sound is going to be detuned. So as you can see, this isn't very detuned, but if you turn this up all the way, it's gonna sound super detuned, and that is very weird. So I like to have it around in the middle. It sounds very airy, as you can hear, because of like the setting at which we put it at here. You can make them unique and sound as you like it. This fourth knob right here is the unison sub level. I don't use this very much, to be honest. It's very weird. It's just like it adds us another layer under, I guess. And it just, I don't know, you can have it if you like the sound of it, but I don't tend to use that a whole lot. Yeah, anyway, now this last knob right here, envelope variation, I honestly cannot find exactly what it does, because it does not sound very different if you turn it on, but I believe it could be linked to this right here, the Unison right here. But yeah, it could be linked to that, otherwise I cannot find what it would be used for. Alright, so now if you saw my last sound design video before the FM8 one, basically, you can use these saws to make a very weird sound. Yeah, if you just put a low note right here. Let's go with a C2 right here. So, as you can see, this is the detuned saws that we did in Serum the other day, and you can still do the same effect processing if you'd like that. So, you just give that a track, and now you have your entire effects chain that you can do, add effects and do all that kind of thing. So, first thing I like to do is actually multiband compress, or even just compress a little bit, kind of bump the loudness up a little bit. And, you know, then you can do the same kind of processing as we did the other day. You know, have band passes, band stops. You know, do that kind of thing. Automate these, the cutoffs for them. And then you can get some really weird sounding stuff. You know, just automate that a little bit. See, that's a really cool sound already. And once again, just do compression, distortion, whatever you need to do to make it sound good. You know, Sytrus is capable of making the source sound for these sounds as well. And like I was talking about earlier for these sounds, you can use square waves as well, and it makes really cool sounds, re-space sounds. So if you just turn this oscillator waveform to square, here's the sound we'll get. You can notice this type of waveform in a lot of Zomboid tracks these days. He likes to do, you know, these kinds of sounds just like as fillers in his songs. So he would have like maybe pitch automation as well, just stuff like that, and it sounds crazy, but it's just that simple. It's just you know, unison on square waves with these filters, and it just sounds crazy, but you know, you don't really think about that much. So yeah, that's some pretty basic, I guess, sound design tips right here, for Sytrus at least. And yeah, I believe you can probably do this inside of Sytrus itself. You might be able to, at least, with these filters, but I legit don't use them at all. I love the parametric EQs inside of FL Studio, and I won't, you know, start messing around with the ones built inside of Sytrus. Alright, so now for one of our last parts here, we'll be covering FM, which is like actually the main part inside of Sytrus that I should have covered first, but I decided to do last, just to keep the best for last. So first of all, I'd like to cover what certain waveforms do to others when FM. If you go in Sytrus right here, and you just kind of have a sine wave modulate a square wave, that is pretty much the sound that a sine wave would have when modulating or FMing a square wave. And that is really interesting. A lot of lead sounds are made like that these days. And with this knowledge, you might be wondering, you know, yeah, that's cool, but how do I, you know, make a sound out of this? Like, you know, it's cool that you can modulate this, you know, knob by turning it, but how do I automate it and make it into one sound? Well, first of all, you want to put a pitch down in your piano roll. So we'll find a nice little note here, right here. F2 is quite nice. So, you know, you can just put that right here. And there's multiple ways of actually doing this. There's the envelope way that we did earlier. So first of all, you want to know the range at which you'll be modulating this. So, you know, you can just audition it a little bit. So let's say you like this position a lot. This will be the maximum position at which, you know, the sound will be playing at. So, now what you want to do once that's done, once you set the position, is just go here in the volume part, and then go into the mod X, turn this down all the way, or you can just do it like somewhere around here. So if you do it down all the way, it's going to start the FM at 0. We'll just turn the smooth off once again. So it's on the X knob right now. So it's going to start the modulation at 0, and then if you move it up, it's going to go make its way up to this position right here. So pretty cool what it's doing right there. If you have it set higher though, it's just gonna do make it start right here and then make its way up to this position. So it's gonna, yeah, let's just hear what that sounds like. So instead of having the default square wave right here, we'll have, you know, what it's set at right here to. Yeah, this is really useful. Now, once that's actually set up, you can actually automate this right here and create your own automation for your sound. So you can do weird stuff. Let's make a cool pattern just for the lulls here. So yeah, this is quite cool. Yeah, it's a nice little sound right there. And you can basically do this with a lot of waveforms. Like this is basically what sine sounds like when modulating a square, but you can experiment with all the other waveforms. Just like this, you know, that was a sine FMing a saw, and then you can do a sine FMing a triangle wave. It's a lot softer because the main sound is soft, and then this will just, you know, be a sine FMing a sine. So not that interesting in my opinion, but yeah. For FM basses, you mainly want to have probably a sine wave as your main oscillator, then have a triangle as your second. You know, have something like that. And then you can always add on, like we did in our FM8 video, the last one, that is. And then, yeah, you can always like add oscillators on top of that. If you modulate into this section, you'll be FMing the first oscillator with number 3, and then, you know, so on and so forth. And then if you do this like this, you'll be feeding the first oscillator into the third one, which is really weird. It actually adds noise sometimes, which is pretty weird. But yeah, this is basically how you get FM growls and stuff like that. What's fun with Sytrus, once again, is this oscillator tab right here. You can add harmonics and stuff like that, just to make it really weird. We'll actually lower the pitch onto this because it's a bit high. So yeah, you can make your own oscillators, change the phase of them, because that's freaking awesome. You know, you just make crazy sounds like that. And one tip I can give you is to not make one sound too crazy, but have multiple things kind of FM as you go. And if you want it to sound more modulated, just make sure that each oscillator's volume is modulated by your X, or whatever it is that you'll be using to modulate. So in this case it's X, so we'll have oscillator 3's volume be modulated by the X knob. That's and you can actually see this right here. This is the modulation that's happening. And if you have it at 0 to 100, it's gonna, you know, do that pretty much. By the way, just to clarify here, the volume right here is modulating the level at which this is FMing. So that's just to clarify if that did not, you know, get through yet. But if nothing is being FM'd though, the volume is just going to be doing the regular volume. So that is pretty much how you do FM stuff. You can always have the, you know, an effects chain after that if you'd like, and that is really cool. Alright, and finally, I will be covering how to do Portamenta and stuff like that inside of Sytrus. So if you want to get a nice little lead sound, you know, go ahead and get a saw wave, you know, detune that a little bit, unison, put your phase up. Let's see, what else can we do here? Turn that up. Yeah, that's a nice little lead sound right there. Okay, if you want, you know, to have only one voice but have it kind of slide, all you have to do is go over here into the like miscellaneous functions and just turn the max polyphony here to 1, and then porta. And then the slide, you know, amount or time is right here. So yeah, that's pretty useful, and you can have this mono thing on if you know, this does the same thing as having only one voice maximum. If you don't want that slide feature, just have max 1 voices and don't have anything else on there, because that's gonna just add some weird stuff. But pretty much everything can be achieved inside of here if you want to do that. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this very long but information-full video on Sytrus. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and take care. I'll see you later. Peace!